Get ready for a show with machines blown right out of proportion. Massive buckets, grinding drills, and huge tires.
It's like power personified.
They're absolutely fascinating. They're engineering marvels. They're absolutely superb.
These machines have helped transform our planet's raw materials into skyscrapers, highways, and even electricity. Sometimes it comes at an environmental cost. Yet each of these beasts is an engineering marvel, worthy of earning a spot on our top 10 list of the world's mightiest earth-moving machines. They can move mountains of rock and dirt. So just who's the best at the job? We traveled the world and brought together a panel of experts to help us grapple with some of the world's largest and most powerful earth-moving machines. We're putting them through some unique tests, too. Making a top 10 list of the best diggers isn't going to be easy, but it's certainly going to be fun. Wasting no time, we began our countdown with the world's biggest land vehicle, the Bagger 293.
The Bagger 293 is a bucket wheel excavator. It's the size of an ocean liner on land.
It's kind of an abstract type of machine. It actually kind of looks like a small mobile city with a giant buzzsaw attached to the front end.
Bagger 293 is in the Guinness Book of World Records because it's the biggest land-bound machine ever.
This German giant hits the scale at a whopping 31 million pounds. That's equal to the weight of about 2,000 adult elephants, more than 2 professional football fields in length, and as tall as a 30-story building. This monster works in the coal mines of Western Germany.
What sets the 293 apart from the other machines is the sheer size of it. I mean, this machine can produce up to 12 tons of material. It's spitting out 10 mid-sized cars in a second.
The Bagger has 18 massive buckets, all working 24/7 on a wheel 70 feet in diameter. Each bucket can pick up over 15,000 pounds of material in one scoop. These massive diggers remove both the earth above buried coal seams as well as the coal itself. The machine's primary purpose is to mine for coal. Unlike most excavators, though, the Bagger doesn't just dig and load trucks. It has its own unique and economical conveyor belt system.
It is far cheaper to convey material than to truck it. A truck weighs about as much as it carries, whereas a conveyor weighs a lot less in comparison to what it can produce and can carry.
The Bagger 293 feeds miles of conveyor belts at the Hambach mine. From there, the coal is loaded onto trains and shipped to 3 local power stations.
The coal is used for power stations. We produce yearly about 40 million tons of coal, and about 30 million go for energy into power stations.
The Bagger 293 is powered by 17,000 kilowatts. It draws its juice from the very power plants it fuels with coal. Although this giant extracts enough coal to provide electric energy to several million homes, it's run by a very small team.
On this excavator, only 5 people are working, and with these 5 people in 3 shifts, that means 15 people around the clock, we produce this high capacity.
This may be a small crew, but they also have to be fit. The Bagger has more than 2,000 steps and about a half-mile of walkways up to a height of 230 feet. It's not unusual for the team to walk over 6 miles during a shift.
I think there are not that many
on to a mine elsewhere. However, their maximum speed is less than half a mile per hour. A 13-mile trip can take about 3 weeks because of the challenges of crossing roads and avoiding power lines and the slow speed of the machine. Still, it's a champion of diggers.
Bucket wheel excavator is, under certain conditions, the most productive way to extract huge masses of material.
That massive digging comes at a price. The Bagger emits large amounts of very fine dust into the atmosphere. To dampen down these particles, workers keep the Bagger and the surrounding areas wet. The coal that's produced presents its own environmental issues too. Each ton of coal burned in a power plant releases 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This contributes to global warming. Of all the fossil fuels, coal puts out the most carbon dioxide. The size and the productivity of the 293 make it the king of the diggers in terms of mass. But because of its sheer cost and lack of mobility, Bagger only reaches number 10 on our list. We've got 9 more diggers still to come, including the machine that helped launch man into space. The countdown of the greatest ever Earthmovers continues with number 9. Diving deep underground is the Gabby 1 tunnel boring machine.
All the other machines work on the surface of the Earth. Now, to actually go under the Earth is a total different ballgame.
The Gabby 1 is the longest tunnel boring machine on Earth. This state-of-the-art digger is working on a very special project, the world's longest train tunnel.
The Gabi 1 is working in the Gotthard project in Switzerland. It's not the biggest machine ever built, but it's maybe the most sophisticated because it's a system about 440 meters in length and 9.58 diameters in width.
This machine has a massive task, cutting through more than 30 miles of some of the hardest rock on Earth. It will take 6 years for Gabby 1 to burrow a tunnel, even longer than the one under the English Channel. The completed tunnel will be the world's longest at 35 miles and will allow trains to travel at speeds of up to 155 miles per hour, deep under Switzerland's picturesque Gotthard Pass.
The whole system weighs about 3,200 tons. It is propulsed by 10 single motors and has a performance of 5,000 horses. So what you have under the earth there is not just a drilling machine, but it's a really powerful construction system.
Gabby 1 is among the most technologically advanced boring machines in the world. Its cutting head, located right at the front, is made up of about 60 steel disc cutters. Constructed from an ultra-hard and ultra-secret steel alloy, these cutters slice through the rock. The rotating movement of the head also pushes the waste through the machine and onto a conveyor belt.
This machine is capable to move 10 meters per day in average. And in good condition, it moves 40 meters.
It has one of the most demanding jobs of any of the tunnel boring machines to date. And yes, it is special.
The other way of tunnelling is essentially to have people with blasting and drills rather than a machine which rotates and cuts a tube out, which this does. It's better than that because you don't need explosives and you also don't put human beings at risk. So it's a better type of machine.
We'll always need tunnels to connect us, and sophisticated technology like Gabby 1 makes tunnel building safer and more precise. There are disadvantages to this gigantic piece of equipment, too.
The tunnel boring machine is a system, and systems are, of course, not that flexible as single machines like excavators, for example.
You can't just make a standard machine that'll go through any type of rock or any type of strata. You've got to design and build one for that particular job. So that's a disadvantage. So each one is a limited machine for a limited purpose. So in that sense, you know, you could compare it to other ones which are much more versatile machines.
This machine may be presently rewriting the history books, but since it can't be easily moved or retooled for new projects, Gabby 1 only stands at number 9 on our top 10 list. Number 8 on our list of the greatest ever Earthmovers is one with a massive appetite, the Silver Spade. This machine is no longer in operation, yet its track record still earns it a place on our list.
This shovel kind of reminds me of this, like a large dinosaur, you know, grazing on overburden in a coal mine.
This mechanical dinosaur was taller than a 12-story building and weighed just under an incredible 16 million pounds. Its huge 105 cubic yard dipper was capable of digging almost 350,000 pounds in a single scoop, and its lifespan seemed infinite.
It's great because it's lasted so long. Show me a car that'll last 30, 40 years and be used 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
In its 40 years of hard labor in the mines of Ohio, the Silver Spade moved over 600 million cubic yards of rock. That's more than twice as much rock as they dug up to build the Panama Canal. Monstrous diggers like this could scrape, shovel, and haul off huge amounts of earth while strip mining. Sometimes damage to the land could be avoided or fixed. Other times, the effect was devastating. Yet in spite of their environmental impact, they were superstars.
It was probably one of the first super machines ever built. If there was a Hall of Fame for stripping shovels, it's a candidate to be in the Hall of Fame.
Its influence has even reached the moon.
The 8 crawlers mounted on 4 corners was the basic inspiration of the crawler transporters currently in use at Kennedy Space Center. Literally, stripping shovel technology was used to build these transporters for man's quest of space.
The Silver Spade's awesome power was based on the design of the human leg.
It was first of 2 only built by Bucyrus that had a thing called a knee action crowd, which is the mechanism which actually holds the bucket that it digs by.
The part of the machine that actually held the bucket, the dipper handle, acted like a human knee, swinging backward and forward. Keeping the knee and all its parts moving was a challenge. The Silver Spade had an oiler continuously lubricating the machine. Without it, the 700,000 separate parts would stop working. The crawler tracks alone required over 6,000 gallons of oil to move smoothly. And because of its age, this veteran of the coalface needed regular checkups. That meant inspecting the 200-foot-high boom daily.
When you ascend on our boom, you make absolutely sure of your footing and your handholds to make sure that you don't slip. And it can be overwhelming at times to look down, straight down at how far you are. It's quite an experience to be up there. It is a good exercise. In fact, I used to take a lot of pride in how fast I could get up there. That probably wasn't the right approach to take, but as you get a little older, you need to rest a time or two before you get to stop.
The hulking Silver Spade was among the last of a breed. Stripping shovels are being phased out and replaced by machines that can cope better with deeper deposits.
The disadvantage of this type of machine is that it is quite restricted when it comes to its working area.
These machines are nice, but they're almost dinosaurs. And the Silver Spade is the last of its kind.
Now that the Silver Spade is retired, it's stuck at number 8. At number 7, one of the world's largest and most powerful scrapers in production today, the Caterpillar 657.
The line has been around almost as long as all trucks and bulldozers.
657 is the biggest scraper around at the moment. And compared with previous scrapers, it's just that much more reliable because it's got new engines, it's got new control technologies.
This is a rather nice, clever, very useful machine.
It's like power personified because it's right there. You can reach out and touch it.
The secret behind the muscle of this particular scraper? 2 powerful engines, one in the front, one in the back, simultaneously pulling and pushing the machine.
It's a bit like a piece of toast and butter, you know. I put a bit too much butter on, so you scrape it off. In other words, it's the scraping motion. It's taking a scraping of the earth off, transporting it, and putting it down as a layer somewhere else.
The 657 doesn't just scrape, it also digs, loads, carries, and dumps huge amounts of earth without the assistance of any other machines.
Scraper is a very, very efficient machine for moving dirt over a short distance. Now, if you're building a road, building a dam or something like that, you want to move dirt from here to there. Scraper's going to do it, and it's going to do it very efficiently.
The secret of its digging power resides in its reinforced steel blade or cutting edge. This cutting edge can last anywhere from 400 to 500 working hours before it has to be replaced.
The cutting edge is the bottom part of the bowl. It's the part that actually goes into the ground. When the bowl is lowered into the ground, the cutting edge is the leading edge of the scraper that goes into the material and forces the material up into the bowl. The blade is about 2.5 inches thick. This doesn't have to be sharp. The sheer force of the machine will load the machine with no problem at all.
When digging conditions are too tough for a single scraper, the 657 buddies up with another machine in what is known as a push-pull operation. The scrapers simply hook up, and like the name says, one pushes while the other pulls. Scrapers have worked non-stop since 1922 and have even seen action in numerous wars. With their speed and maneuverability, they're perfect for the construction of roads, ramps, and landing strips. In Vietnam, the scraper found a rather unusual role.
I was 18 years old, wet behind the ears, and one night we were done moving dirt for the day, and could hear some shooting going on somewhere nearby, not too far away, and I got my curiosity up.
The year, 1968. Philip Ory and a colleague got in their machines and headed for the source of the gunfight. There they found a platoon under fire. They loaded the men into the bowl portion of the scraper, protected by the thick metal sides, and got them out safely.
I ended up being in the right place at the right time with a land scraper of all things, and was able to get these guys out of danger. And that's just something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.
Inside plate is like armor plate.
The machine saved the soldiers' lives and made Philip Ory a hero. But was it luck, poor marksmanship, or the scraper's tank-like hull that got everyone out safely? We wanted the real answer.
It's blocked ammunition. Oh, okay.
It's armor-piercing shell.
Ready, Kevin?
A marksman using an AK-47 rifle with armor-piercing bullets will put a section of the scraper's side to the test. These bullets are designed to go through armored personnel carriers and tanks.
I'd hate to have been on the receiving end of that one.
Well, you either hit it or scared it real bad because it fell down.
I don't know. The one you were shooting at over in Vietnam, that was painted green. That may have had a difference. Ooh, nice clean hole.
Yeah, let's flip it over and see if it went right through. Not even a mark. Not even a dent.
Wow.
Okay.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
The scraper not only saves lives and works in construction, it also helps redistribute the soil after mining operations. Built bigger and better than the model Ory used in Vietnam, the 657 is without a doubt the all-time scraper champion. It sits at number 7 on our list because it's limited in how deep it can dig and in the types of material it can successfully scrape up.
I wouldn't put the scraper in general high up on the list, simply because it is a relatively simple machine. It's not as sophisticated or as complex as some of the other machines in the list.
Our list of the top 10 greatest earth movers ever continues with a machine that is all about mobility and flexibility. Number 6, the Letourneau L2350 wheel loader.
The great thing about the L2350 is it's the ultimate four-wheel drive. Forget Hummers, they're toys. If you want a four-wheel drive, the L2350 is the one.
A wheel loader is essentially a machine on 4 wheels with an engine and a driver's cab, and at the front of it, a bucket. This particular wheel loader is designed to work in very large mines.
The Letourneau wheel loaders are one of mining industry's kind of jack of all trades, with a kind of a top speed right around 11 miles per hour, slow by automotive standards, but pretty fast for earth-moving machines. It can get there faster, get the job done, and go off and do something else.
This four-wheel drive mammoth is all about raw power. It can lift loads of 160,000 pounds, the equivalent weight of 30 cars, to heights of around 44 feet, and fill a 500,000-pound truck in less than 1 minute. This speed is made possible by a unique design feature.
The L2350 is articulated. That is, the wheels don't actually steer, it's the frame that steers. It pivots.
That means the loader can turn on a short radius, allowing it to do its job much quicker. Each tire is 13 feet tall, weighs almost 17,000 pounds, has a load capacity of over 325,000 pounds, and costs $60,000. With a 6-inch thickness, there's enough steel and rubber in each of these wheels to make 700 car tires. And to avoid overheating, the tires are filled with nitrogen, a gas unlike air that remains cool under tremendous pressures and extreme friction.
The tires on the L2350 were a big challenge. They weren't available at the time. Firestone actually built these and designed them specifically for the L2350.
The Letourneau L2350 is the largest wheel-driven front-end loader in the world. It weighs 578,000 pounds. This massive loader uses power gracefully, too. Whenever the brakes are hit, the Letourneau captures that energy and uses it to power the hydraulic lift. Believe it or not, this monstrous digger is actually a fuel-saving hybrid. It does have its drawbacks, though.
The disadvantage is, though, that it can only take material that is of a certain looseness. It can't go into solid rock unless it's blasted and so on. The other disadvantage would be, of course, that it's on rubber wheels. And you know, you can only, unlike Caterpillar tracks, you can only run the machines in certain conditions of ground.
Because of the cost of the tires and lack of adaptability, this giant of the digging fraternity is stuck at number 6. We continue with a relative youngster. At number 5, the Bucyrus 8200 walking dragline, AKA Liberty.
It's a relatively simple thing that does a fantastically large, significant job. If the conditions are fine, very cheaply. It's one of the cheapest forms of earth moving.
Liberty is big. It's got a 355-foot boom, and it hangs a 77 cubic yard bucket on the end of that. It's big. You wouldn't want to run it over your foot.
I see tremendous grace when I see that bucket going out and coming back. I mean, I almost see a fisherman casting a line. I see an extraordinary grace for a machine that's 6 and 7 stories tall, going out and pulling dirt back and dumping it 200 yards from the point of dig to the point of dump. I think it's extraordinary.
Liberty can move over 250,000 pounds of earth over a distance of 200 yards in less than 60 seconds. And the way it functions is based on a very simple concept.
A dragline works by having a bucket on the end of a steel rope, which goes to the top of a boom or jib. Then it uses a drag rope to pull the bucket up a slope and fill it. The engineering that goes onto them is absolutely amazing. And then, although the actual concept is rather simple, it's very clever.
Simple and efficient, this walking dragline is perfect for coal mining, and it's been a boon at the Center Mine in North Dakota.
Here, most of the electricity is generated by lignite coal. The dragline actually uncovers the overburden or the dirt that's above the coal, and in our operation, that can vary anywhere from 30 feet up to 100 feet of dirt over the coal seams. So the dragline, the 8200, the Liberty dragline, is part of the whole process. In fact, it's the beginning of the process.
Coal mining comes with an environmental price tag. But such mining allows North Dakota to help produce massive amounts of electricity. And the Liberty produces the power in a unique way. It actually walks while at work.
The reason that Liberty is a walking machine rather than one on tracks is because of the sheer weight of the machine. Liberty weighs 9 million pounds. And to get that kind of weight spread out over tracks is physically impossible to do. And so the dragline designers decided to set the machine on a large round disc called a tub. And then to move it, they designed this walking system.
A walking dragline doesn't really walk, it hops. Like a kangaroo, it hops. It goes backwards. The cams come round, the feet drop down, and then it lifts itself up at an angle on the edge of this tub. that slides back, drops down, and the feet come round on the cams and so on. They should be called hopping draglines, but it would sound a bit odd, I think.
The principles behind Liberty are simple, yet this animal is loaded with state-of-the-art technology.
The potential for technology on this machine is just starting to be explored. The dragline world has entered the information age, and through the remote diagnostic system, we can get technical support from any place in the world.
Compared with the other draglines, it's a quantum leap in design and technology.
Liberty is certainly technologically advanced and exceptionally powerful, but its appeal is not universal.
The weak points of walking dragline is that they are limited in their application. You don't see walking draglines putting sewers in the street, for example. You won't have a street left.
Liberty does the job in North Dakota, yet due to its size and weight, this walking dragline can only operate in certain special conditions. For that reason, it sits at number 5. Our 4th greatest ever digger has taken mining technology to a new level, a monster of disproportionate dimensions. Here is the Terex RH400 hydraulic excavator.
It's the biggest machine of its type. Nobody else has built anything as big or as powerful as that. The Terex RH400 is a pioneer. It's pushed the boundaries of technology.
Terex designed and built this machine so it could lift a staggering 85 tons of earth in a single scoop. That's like lifting about 11 large elephants at once. The RH400 works in one of the toughest areas for digging on the planet, the Alberta oil sands in northwest Canada, and was designed specifically for that area.
It's a very difficult material to dig. It changes its consistency between the seasons. In the wintertime, it tends to break out into big pieces. That's difficult for the machine to handle, and the summertime, the oil sand is like a putty. And it's a very heavy push all the way through for the bucket to penetrate into the material.
The RH400 is a key player in the excavation of these oily sands. But these operations are leaving a big environmental footprint. To get 1 barrel of oil, you need to mine 2 tons of tar sand. And the carbon dioxide emitted by the operation will total more than all of Canada's cars by 2011. In spite of this impact on the land, the digger does its job well. The keys to its success are the huge bucket and strong arms. They're powered by the digging world's largest hydraulic system.
The RH400 is a hydraulic excavator, meaning it uses the power of hydraulic fluid, fluid power, if you will, as opposed to a cable shovel, which uses cable or wire rope.
The science of hydraulics is a very complicated thing, but I'm going to try and demonstrate it quite simply today. Here, we're going to show very simply how it produces a linear form of movement by simply creating pressure at one end and transmitting that via the fluid, the liquid, to a cylinder there, which at the end of the cylinder creates the movement. So if I press here, I'm putting pressure on there, and that's being transmitted right down the tube, and there's the movement at the end, which could work a machine or whatever.
Generally, the more hydraulic pressure a machine has, the more power it has. The RH400 can load one of the world's biggest trucks with only 4 scoops.
You could compare the RH400 machine to a living entity. When you look at the life fluid as being the hydraulic oil, the heart of the hydraulic system would be the hydraulic pumps. There's 8 main pumps on the RH400, producing about 920 liters a minute. So it gives you a total flow or circulation of oil of about 7,500 liters a minute to move the bucket and boom attachment.
Hydraulics is one thing. The RH400 has other impressive features as well.
It's also very mobile. Compared to a lot of other machines, if it has to move to another part of the mine, there are hydraulic motors that work the tracks, and they are relatively efficient and fast.
Its tracks also self-regulate their tension when seasonal weather conditions change the consistency and firmness of the oil sands.
Its disadvantage is that the hydraulics work under very high pressure, so therefore extreme safety precautions have to be taken whenever working on the maintenance of the machine.
The RH400 can seem to do the impossible, and its hydraulic system is the digging world's most powerful, but it's complicated and dangerous to service too. For these reasons, this earth mover is bogged down at number 4. The countdown continues, from powerful hydraulic pistons to colossal brute strength. Standing at number 3, the Komatsu D575A3 Super Dozer. This is no ordinary digging machine. With a blade about as wide as a 3-car garage, this is the sumo champion of all bulldozers.
We know what a bulldozer is. Something with tracks with a big blade that pushes dirt. But, you know, there's bulldozers and then there's super dozers.
It's not one of the small dozers you see in construction sites. It's 10 times the size of those.
With a 1,150 horsepower turbocharged after-cooled engine, this brute can actually push its own weight, about 350,000 pounds with each shove of the blade.
This thing is fantastic. It's John Wayne, you know, bring on the Marines kind of thing. It's a big deal.
Usually, a bulldozer just moves dirt. This Komatsu dozer, with a unique blade design that tilts, can also scoop up dirt and actually carry it up off the ground.
And the reason that's a good idea is you're not now pushing against the ground and you don't have a lot of resistance. You're not trying to roll the dirt. It's an incredibly efficient machine and it does its job very well.
They work in mines, landfills, and construction sites around the world, where their specialty is shoving massive amounts of material in a straight line.
It definitely improved the production on our mines. You can do so much more work with basically one operator, and that's what makes it feasible to have the machine.
This machine isn't just about productivity, it's also about comfort. After all, the Komatsu goes over some pretty bumpy terrain.
What we were trying to do is keep the track on the ground. Whenever the track is off the ground and slams back into the ground, you get shock up to the operator.
To decrease vibration, rubber shock absorbers were added, giving this machine better traction and a less bouncy ride than its predecessors. A smooth ride may be guaranteed by Komatsu, but what about handling big objects in its path? We decided to test out this dozer's strength with a pretty unconventional test involving a pickup truck.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty silly idea. That would definitely fall into the unapproved application format of a D575.
Bulldozers take advantage of their weight when dozing, as the heavier the machine, the more traction it has to push heavy loads. And although it exerts only about 20 pounds per square inch, the D575's massive overall weight quickly and effortlessly turns the truck into roadkill.
These are the big guns. This is for the big leagues.
The D575's weight, size, and power make it especially useful for large mining operations. However, these factors limit its use too.
I think this is probably the largest bulldozer that we'll see in quite some time. To go to a larger machine would require a lot more cost, and it just doesn't work out in dollars and cents.
There are not so many operations of the size to use the Komatsu D575.
This Komatsu Super Dozer is the ultimate machine if you want to push large loads of dirt in a short time. For longer distances, it's a waste of power. For this reason, the Super Dozer is buried at number 3 on our list. We've already explored some of the greatest earth movers on the planet. Now, here's a giant hauler that is the cornerstone of many mining operations. Standing at number 2, the Liebherr T282B haul truck.
The T82 with its edges, which is enormous tires, with its big radiator, it doesn't hide its power, it is just pure macho.
Mining kept saying they wanted bigger, they wanted better, they wanted faster. The T282B does it.
It's not just the size of a house, it's the size of an office block. And it's an office block that'll do 40 miles an hour. When it drives past you, the earth shakes. It's fantastic.
The T282B has an engine weighing a whopping 11 tons. Such a big engine is a real gas guzzler. It burns 1,200 gallons of diesel a day. It's not all about gas, though.
It's unique because it's diesel-electric drive, unlike some other trucks which are mechanical drive. An electric drive truck is simple in that it uses very few rotating parts as opposed to rotating drive lines and transmissions and various components like that.
Moving this giant forward is one thing. Stopping it is another. The T282B does have conventional brakes, but holding its massive momentum would quickly burn them out. So this monster relies on its electric motors to decrease speed. They work like in a normal car, where changing gears from third to second slows it down. Keeping this million-pound beast under control requires more than brakes. It calls for a skilled and confident driver.
First time I ever sat in the driver's seat of one of those, it was pretty intimidating. But after about 2 weeks or so, you get into the flow of driving them and you get used to the size of them, and then you don't really notice how big they are compared to the rest of them. When you're operating something this large, you get used to the fact that there's a lot of smaller pieces of equipment, smaller vehicles around you. I never thought I would be able to do it or never even consider trying it, but it's fun.
No matter how many times you see it, there's still a feeling that how can something as big as this be able to move around at 40 miles an hour? It's the same kind of feeling you get when you see a 747 that weighs 250 tons actually taking off. The feeling is the same.
They are designed to move material quickly, so the fastest they can get between that shovel and that crusher, the better. And obviously, the more they can carry. So that's the whole point of doing a large, fast haul truck.
It's more than just a dump truck. It's almost like a armored car, in a way. When you see that big pile in the back of a haul truck, drive off with it.
Although the T282B may be the biggest and best at what it does, it still needs a loader to fill it up and does little to beautify the landscape. For those reasons, it stands at number 2 on our list. Coming up, our number 1, the greatest ever earth mover. So far, it's been all about size and raw power. And in this world of big, bigger, and biggest, you may be surprised by the size of our last digger. We've met 9 earth-moving Goliaths on our top 10 list of the greatest ever diggers. You might call our number 1 David, the incredibly small yet efficient JCB backhoe loader.
In many ways, the JCB reminds me of the common ant. Not the biggest, not the most powerful, but still one of nature's most versatile little excavators.
What's great about a backhoe loader is it's a jack of all trades. It's like a Swiss Army knife.
It's a popular machine, and it has transformed the way we actually work in a whole range of earth-moving things.
Although it's not the largest machine by any means, it is the most adaptable. It can do more different jobs than any of the other machines we have on our list.
1 out of every 4 backhoes is a JCB.
JCB has sold over 325,000 machines around the world since they first hit building sites in 1952. The backhoe loader was born of the need for multiple functions from just one machine.
Really, a backhoe loader is versatility to the nth degree. You've got 3 pieces of construction equipment tied into one. First, you have a tractor. Next, you have a loader. You're the ability to move large amounts of material from point A to point B. And then really the main operating tool of the machine is going to be the back end. It's a small machine, but it's a very powerful machine. But the key to the backhoe loader is its versatility. What sets JCB apart from the competitors is a host of unique applications. You can put in upwards of 500 attachments onto the backhoe loader, again, making the operator more productive because it's going to give him a more versatile machine.
I think certainly in engineering you've got to have the products right, and we fortunately had the right sort of product to do that with. And I guess
Sir Anthony Bamford is the oldest son of Joseph Cyril Bamford, the man whose initials JCB became the standard of quality for digging machines.
It's no good just having a well-engineered product. You've got to go out and sell it. And he actually did go out and sell it. I mean, he sold his very first product himself in the marketplace.
Joe's selling skills were on display when he began a great tradition of JCB stunts in the 1960s. He involved royalty at lavish presentations and even organized elaborate demonstrations performed to showcase the versatility of the machine.
It's all part of selling the sizzle, really, not selling the steak. You've got to make it interesting.
Reliability is very, very key for these items of equipment, and the 3CX backhoe loader stands up to all the abuse that the kids can throw at it.
In England, Hugh Edel-Lanu owns Diggerland, the world's first adventure park entirely dedicated to construction equipment.
I just love diggers myself. We do a lot of unusual things and fun things with JCB equipment. We have the world's fastest JCB that's road legal. Its top speed is a closely guarded secret. Suffice to say that it can overtake trucks on the highway without too much of a problem.
Hugh took 22 hours to cross the entire British Isles, and the record he holds is probably here to stay. For him, it's just another way to spend as much time as he can around the digger.
It's just awesome.
To demonstrate the JCB's adaptability and efficiency, we have pitted the backhoe against a rugby team. A world first, we think. The objective is simple. Dig a ditch 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 23 feet long as fast as possible.
2, 1, go!
15 strapping, muscle-bound rugby players against the Swiss Army knife of the construction industry, the JCB backhoe loader. Surely, it's no competition.
Keep it up, lads, come on!
Both teams start quickly, but with some death flicks and a few cleverly placed scoops, the backhoe soon has the edge. A 3-foot deep trench proves to be a mere hindrance to a machine designed to dig as deep as 20 feet. Although in top physical shape, the men are no match for the JCB. The hydraulic power of the backhoe does the job in 14 minutes and 56 seconds, leaving the rugby team trailing way behind.
Well, gentlemen, I'm afraid modern technology has beaten the rugby team, but nevertheless.
We at JCB are honored to be considered #1 on the top 10 greatest earth movers of all time.
Shake his hand.
I think the versatility of the machine has really allowed us to gain that stature. When you look at other pieces of construction equipment that are out there, I'd be willing to bet our machines have probably moved more earth than the other machines on your list.
The backhoe loader is never the most efficient machine at doing any particular job. Its real success is that it'll do just about anything, and no other machine comes close in that respect.
Every site needs a JCB because there's always a small job to do. It can do 101 jobs.
It's not necessarily the biggest, the baddest, and the most powerful that come out on top. Sometimes it's the smallest and more versatile tool that comes in #1.
Although not a giant, the impressive versatility of the JCB makes it one of the greatest ever earth movers. There you have it. Every digger on our top 10 list can really move earth, yet these machines also take a toll on Mother Nature. They've enabled mining operations to literally level mountains. However, without these brutes and the fuel and minerals they dig up, life wouldn't be what it is today.